Welcome to the new lecture of structures of the C++ language. Structures are basically the collection of different data types with a single name. Structures are very similar to the concept of the class in object-oriented programming, though the class is a very advanced topic of the object-oriented, which we will cover in the coming lectures, inshallah soon. So let's discuss the structure first. So structure is basically a collection of different existing data types variables. So it means the structure can be used to collect the different data types. For example, if we have a number of students in the class, and for each student we want to declare his name, his age, and his address or his obtained marks. So it means that we have to declare the age for student 1, age for student 2, age for student 3, and age for the all students. So if we have 30 students in the class, so that means that we will have 30 age variables in the programming. Similarly, for the name of the students, we will have 30 names of the students variables. Similarly, if we have obtained marks of the students, so it means that we will declare 30 obtained marks variables in the programming for all the students. So it's become redundant and difficult to understand the concept of the whole programming, where we will have a jungle of variables in the programming. So to make it very simple and manageable, we have a structure concept in the C++ programming. So in this case, we will only define 3 variables at once, that is name of the student, age of the student, and obtained marks of the students in a single name, under the umbrella of single name, and that will be student. So under student name we will have 3 variables, and then we can utilize this umbrella, this collection of data types for each and every variable, for each and every students in the class. Not only in the class, but you can use it in for the students of whole school and institute. Okay, so this is a very sophisticated and very usable and manageable feature of the C++ that we can use in our programming logics. Okay, so this is the syntax of the structure that we can define a structure. Actually, we need a reserve keyword to be written before defining a structure, that is struct. This is in the small letters. Okay, so struct is a reserve keyword that should be written before in the prefix of definition of the structures with space and the name of the structures. So programmer should also give a name to the structure as well. So this is the name of the structure, and then define the body of the structure by giving the curly braces as a body to the structure. So here in this body you can declare multiple data types, the existing primitive or derived data types in the structure. So it means that we cannot define actually the constant like the values like in the enumerations, but actually we have to declare the variables inside the body of the structure, like integer a or character name or float obtained mass, etc. Okay, and then this is terminated by a terminator. So just like enumerations, we can also declare a variable of type of type structure. Okay, so this can be terminated before the declaration of the the variable. So if you have terminated it, then you can define a variable of type structure like this one. Write the name of the structure, because this is the user or programmer defines type now. Okay, the structure, and then declare a variable of type structure. Okay, so this is one way of declaring a variable of type structure. The other way is to write down name of the variable here. So this way or through this way you can define the variable or identifier of the structure type. Okay, the user defined structure type. Okay, so it means that we can access the data types that you have defined in the body of the structure through this variable or through this variable. Okay, so either of these two ways can be used to declare a variable of type structure. How can we access the data types inside the structure? So we need to use the dot operator. Okay, the dot operator, variable, dot operator, and then the name of the declared variables inside the body of the structure. So through this way we can assign the values into the declared variables, or we can print or fetch the values through cout statement using dot operator of the declared variables. So let's see how can we use this structure concepts in the example of the C++ programming. So this is the structure for the student. Okay, so I have named it as student. Okay, and then provide the curly braces as the body of the structure, and we have also remember that you need to write down the struct reserved keyword before the name of the structure. Okay, so student is the name of the structure, and you can give it any name, so just like any variable or identifier. So you must follow the rules and regulations of defining identifier. Okay, so this is the body of the structure where we have declared a character type array which has size 50. So it means that we can save 50 characters in this name variable. We have also declared an ID that has type of integer. We have also declared the marks variable which has type float. Okay, and then after closing curly braces, the body of the structure, we have declared a variable s. So this variable has type student. Okay, so s has type student and s has a variable. Okay, so through this s we can access each data type or each variable inside the structure. Okay, so we have actually created a copy or object of this structure in the memory. Okay, so if you define another variable of this student, so it means that you are going to create another copy or object of this variable in another space of the memory. Okay, so let's see how can we access the data types through this variable s in the main function. So this is the global structure, so therefore we can access it globally through in any function of our programming. Okay, so this is the main function. In this main function you can see that we are going to take input from the user, cn s dot operator. So s is the variable, this is variable. Okay, so s is the variable of type student. So through this s we can access the name. Name is actually the variable already declared in the structure, name. So this name has been inputted from the user. Okay, so remember that when you see a name from the user, so it means that whenever user give a space in between the first name and second name, so that space will be considered as a terminator in the input, and the first name will only be assigned to the s dot name. So if you want to assign the whole name, the first name, second name and third name separated by even spaces, so for that you need to write down the cn dot get function, cn dot get function, and then write down the s dot name and how many characters, maximum characters you want to save in the variable s dot name. So that is actually 50. So this is the alternative method through which you can get the user input in the name variable. Okay, in the second statement we are going to input the ID from the user. In the third statement we are going to input the marks from the user through using s dot operator, s dot operator. Okay, and in similar way, we are going to print out the values by just accessing the the name of the variable, dot operator, and then the data type or the variable declared inside the structure. Okay, so s dot name will print out the name which has been inputted from the user, s dot id will print the value, s dot mars will also print the value of the structure s, the variable s. Okay, so in similar way we can define multiple variables, like student is now data type, user defined data type. Okay, this is student, but this is a structure, so we can declare a variable of this student type, which is, we have one has already been declared there, s. We can declare s1, s2, s3, s4, and for all students we can define the user defined variables or the student type variables in a very similar way. So it means that s1 has name, id, and marks. So this s has the name, id, and marks in a very separate space of the memory. So it is a copy of this structure saved in the other space of the memory. This is the another copy of the student data type or this structure, which is being saved in another space of the memory. This s2 is another copy or object of the structure which has different name, id, and marks. Okay, so this is different copy of the structure, this is different copy of the structure. Similarly, s3 has different copy of the structure which has three variables, name, id, and marks. s4 has different copy of the structure. So it means that if you assign a value through this s1 to the name, that value will only be accessible through s1, okay, and not with s2 and s3 and s4, because these are the different copies. So each student has different copy of these variables and can be used differently for each and every student. Okay, so now you can see here the benefit of using the structure, that we have only defined at once in the programming through using the structure concept, and through this structure concept we are going to use or declare this concept of the structure by declaring the variables s1, s2, s3, and s4. So this is student 1, student 2, student 3, and student 4. Similarly, we will have only 30 variables of the student type. Okay, so we have reduced from almost 90 variables into 30 variables, okay, through structure concept. We can also reduce this concept to the single variable using arrays. So just like we have used the arrays for simple variables, so we can also use the variable concept for the student structure. You can see, if you write down for example student, so student is the is the user defined data type, and then s is actually variable, and then use the concept of the array. So we need 30 elements in this array. So we have reduced the 30 variables of structure type of the user data type into the single variable. So it means that we have summarized the information into a very manageable summarized form. So let's see how can we access the structure defined declared variables through this array. So we have, the name of the array is S. Through this S, in the first index of S, we have how many indices here? 30 indices, starting from the 0 to 29. Yes. So starting from the 0, so it means that in first index of the 0, we have variable name. S of 0 has variable ID. S of 0 has variable marks. You see? So each index of this array has 3 variables, and then these 3 variables can be used for each and every student in this programming logic. Okay? So to use the structure, we have summarized it, the information to different variables of the structure type, data type, and then we have defined an array of that data type. Okay? So these are the simple variables, and these variables have summarized into an array concept. Okay, and then the array concept has been used here like this one. So in similar way, you can also access to the S of index 1 dot name. So this is another copy. S of index 1 dot ID, and S1 dot name, S1 dot ID, S of 1 dot marks. So in index 1, we have 3 variables of the structured data type that can be utilized for a single student. So in similar way, we can declare or define and initialize the values of index number 2, index number 3, index number 4, up to the index number 29. Okay, so this was all about the structure, and that can be used to combine the different properties of a single object. Okay, so this is a single object about the students. So student has similar properties, okay, like name, ID, marks, and some other property as well. So it is difficult to define the different variables for different properties of each student. Okay, so therefore we have declared a structure. We have declared a structure for the properties of the student, and then through this structured data type we have used different variables so that we may assign values to the properties of different students. And then we have even summarized these variables into an array. So this is a very sophisticated way to define the variable of type user data type, and that data type should be of structure. Okay, and then we have access the name, ID, and marks through array using the indices of the array. So thank you very much for watching this lecture and video. If you have any question regarding the structure, you can ask me and query me those questions just below in the comments, and inshallah I will try my best to answer all those questions. Thank you once again.